sorry. So it'd be 1 plus square root of 15 all over 2.
Okay. What are the two solutions?
Minus 1 plus square root of 15 all over 2. Sorry. I would be shocked if I didn't get it right.
Okay.
This is not hard.
Oh, look at that.
There, that's what I said.
Minus 1/2 minus I times the square root of 15.
Well, I said minus 1 plus or minus I square root of 15 all over 2, which is the same thing.
It's the same thing. Yeah, it's exactly it, because it's just, there you go.
Let's do 2 more and then we'll be
Isn't
satisfied.
that freaky, John?
It's not that
Isn't
hard.
that freaky?
Do you understand
I'll
how
ask my ex, who's a super genius.
Nobody can do that. All right, now.
You can. It's not, you can do that. Jeff, you can do this too. This is not.
No, I don't think in the same way as you. So the Ides of March have passed, and so too has the eclipse, and there was no rapture. Whoa. I was returned. Anyway, back to what I was saying. What was I saying? Yes, so March is over, and it was fun. I would like to thank all of our new subscribers, and for those you just coming on, just hit subscribe. It doesn't hurt. It's free, and you're gonna like this channel as it grows and we become more refined. And we have already had some great guests, and we do plan on having a lot more. And this month we were talking, we kind of summed it up with some things that are going on with our personal lives, particularly some of our research. And we have some special treats in addition to some world events. And one of them is a strange gift that Greg has. I would like you to see. Check us out. Greg, as you know, we have a paper out there, right?
Yeah.
All right, let me go pull it up.
A paper? What is this?
Is it papers, please? You know about the paper, John Doe?
No.
It's a Riemann hypothesis.
Oh, okay.
Jeff
sweet.
and I and a third
collaborated.
Dennis Allen collaborated on, yeah.
Nice, good guys.
Okay, so we have, this is the news for the week. I'm going to do this. We're going to just touch base on this. This is news going on.
Okay.
How many reads do we got this week or this month? Where do you see it?
I don't know. It was up to 13,000 total.
Yeah,
I don't see the numbers.
Maybe I have to be logged in to see.
Maybe so.
Why don't you log in and check?
Me?
Yeah. Wait, no, right. we could do this. We can go to the profile here.
Yeah, if you want me to share the screen.
And you could do some background for the audience that doesn't know about this paper.
Like
Greg,
you.
Yeah. So Greg, why don't you tell John? So the entire, let's just put it this way. Most of the reads come from the hypothesis paper.
Right.
I only have 9 publications, like almost all. So it's like 13
it's up to
14.
16,500.
That's my entire page though, or my whole my whole thing. I don't see where.
Yeah. Okay. Let me
get
it in. I'm logged in and I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah. I'm not like
you're the analytic dude.
Yeah.
Me? Oh boy, I don't know about that.
You are now.
Yeah, it's up to 13,400, which is, that's more than I remember. And then you got 16 for 3 for the rest of them. So.
Okay, so then let me go see how that.
The name of the paper, I don't know if we're letting other people know, but the name of the paper is a direct proof of the Riemann hypothesis, and the Riemann hypothesis is probably the #1 unsolved problem in mathematics. So it's a big deal, and the truth is that there's a high bar. Even if you prove it, you got to convince people that it's been proven, and you need to get people, with the credentials, the mathematical credentials and so on, to back it and put their neck on the line and say, yeah, this is actually done. The paper was written in September 2020, so it's been 3.5 years now, and we got 13 1,500 reads, which is a lot for this website, which is ResearchGate. I mean,
Now, do
it's
they
one of the
give feedback as a part of this website?
very few people do. A few
we
people have.
corresponded with mathematicians over the
Okay.
years.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So just to be clear, most proofs out there are indirect proofs, meaning that what you do to have an indirect proof of anything is you assume that it's not true, and then you arrive at a contradiction. You prove A
Oh.
and not A, and therefore the thing that you assumed must be false. So therefore it's true. And that's the way most proofs go. So a direct proof would be just that. You're directly proving it. It's like proving that all right triangles satisfy the Pythagorean theorem. Well, you prove it by showing it. You don't get every single right triangle there is. You just prove it in the case. You draw an arbitrary right triangle and you show that it's true for that case. Therefore, it's true for all cases. And that's kind of what the direct proof is that we have for this. Jeff went on to write well, we worked on together, but mostly Jeff, another direct proof of another conjecture, which is the Birchon-Swinnerton-Dyer conjecture. And that one is also one of the millennial prizes. There's an organization that's supposed to give $1 million out for successfully proving this. And that was done back in August. So that's been now 6-7 months.
Now, this particular site, how many publications became not total, but became provable or within the
generally
scientific
speaking,
community,
let me be frank and say that
mathematical community.
this website is kind of a holding tank in a way. So people from all over academia put their papers on here. It just means that they put it up there. It doesn't mean that it's been peer reviewed or anything like that. So in order to get published in a peer reviewed journal, which is what you'd want to have, obviously, if you want to have it gain the kind of acceptance we want, then you'd have to submit the paper to the journal and they would have to accept it and go through the whole process and all that kind of stuff. But since there are so many papers, and I'm talking, I guess, hundreds of thousands of papers written by authors all over the world that have unpublished papers, excuse me, they put them up on this website as a sort of like a holding tank. And they do solicit, what are your comments about that? There's a lot of papers that have less than 10 reads. I'd say the vast majority of them have very few reads because the only people who are interested are, the small group of people who might be interested in that particular topic. But the Riemann hypothesis is a big enough deal that a lot of people are interested in it. And they may just glance at it. They may read the whole thing.
And there's a prize associated with it.
Yes, there is.
Handful of prizes.
But it's more than just the prize, it's the recognition and being, and it's a big deal to be recognized as the guys that solved it. Now, just to be fair, there are lots of people who are claiming to have solved the Riemann hypothesis. We're not the only
not
ones.
the Birchon-Swinnerton-Dyer conjecture, though.
That's true. That's less people doing that. But there's
Now,
lots
is
of
there a
videos out there
leading
talking about how
contender,
hard it is
or-
and why it's been around for 150 years and nobody's solved it. And they just ignore all these people that are making claims, including us. But
now, for the prize money or whatever the prize is, what you probably have to publish it, and then what's the criteria for?
Well, there
them
isn't
to
a set
evaluate
criteria. I think.
Yeah, there is.
Again,
I'll give you the rules if you want.
Okay, go ahead.
It has to be out there for 2 years at least before they even consider it. Yeah, we're there now, and it has to be accepted. Which pretty much means one mathematician needs to come forward to defend it. So if that could be an editor at a journal, but one mathematician to defend it, if he defends it and no one can find any arguments,
he or she.
Yeah, Clay Mathematics Institute would step in and could give it. Now, here's the thing. There's only one other millennial prize that was solved. That was by Grigory, what's the last name? Perlman?
Perlman, yeah.
And
Grigory, that's Greg, just Russian.
Yeah. And his didn't get awarded the prize for like 8 years after he put it out there. So, and Clay Mathematics Institute was one of the last ones. He was already winning awards in other areas, and so
you want to be sure, and I get that. It's like anything else. It's like, they came out with, people are recognizing Diana Nyad for her swim, and there's others that are somewhat experts are saying, I don't think so.
Yes, exactly.
It's the same kind of thing with this. We need to get acceptance from you know, and more than just one, I would say, although technically just one, I
But
suppose.
the criteria is at least one before they get evaluated for the
Yeah,
prize money.
at least one, again, a highly credentialed person who's been working
years,
specifically on
one-
this problem.
okay.
You know, and here's the other goal, you know, nobody wants to, if the only people who are credible enough to say, yeah, they did it, are people who've been working on it. And those people who've been working on it, trust
They're
me,
not going to accept it. Yeah.
they're not going to accept it because they don't like our approach, because it's a direct approach as opposed to an indirect
Well,
approach.
I don't know if they like our approach. It's just the fact that somebody else has it.
There's
I mean,
there's a little bit of jealousy
there-
involved, obviously, so that we have to overcome that bar.
There's one,
know.
yeah. So the one thing that is kind of the same reaction with every single mathematician that we've had brought up to is this: everything from start to finish is correct, except they're questioning the last thing, and I'm like, well, they have to question something, right? But here's what I wanted to do. Greg, you're not going to like this, but you may get a kick out of it too. We have a new
whatever.
heckler on my site. On
Awesome.
YouTube.
Love
Love
hecklers.
Yes, and he has insulted you and Denny.
Oh, he had, but didn't insult you?
No,
Oh,
You
interesting. Does he know
insult
us?
my family in the shop.
no, he does not know you.
Just
He's
insulted us,
pretending.
but
He's
has-
pretending. Yes, he's saying that you're not a good mathematician,
Oh,
and
okay.
so, and he said, Denny, he used to be. It's obviously nonsense, but he's got my email, so he's writing me too. I'm not going to mention his name because I respect anyone who's going over the paper. But what I want to do here is show some of your freakish gifts that you do have in terms of mathematics.
Oh,
Greg, I tease him. I say he's, like Rain Man, autistic savant. Okay. Greg
I don't know
can
about
do a quadratic equation in his head. Do you remember what a quadratic equation is, John, from high school?
No.
Okay.
No, I do not.
So, Greg, tell him what a quadratic equation is, and then the traditional sense, and then tell him how you do it. And we're gonna do it. We're gonna test you right now. I got Wolf and
well,
Alvin here.
put me on board.
Okay,
Put me on the test. Yeah.
All right.
No, I'm not autistic or anything like that. But bottom line is the quadratic equation is any equation where you have something you're trying to solve for, something that's unknown, and that is squared. So we'll call that unknown thing x. Okay, well, it's some quantity, and we also have a quantity that's just in x plane, and then maybe a constant quantity. So we can
Sorry, too complicated.
put that all.
Thumb
okay,
that down.
we can put that all down and say ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. That's the way it's normally done. Have you seen that before in junior high,
Yeah.
John?
Well,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you remember the formula for solving
No,
for x?
but you can just go ahead. Let's test.
All right. Well,
Somebody,
hang
Jack,
on.
you throw out something that you know they
I'm gonna
have.
get-
this is something you
well,
should have
yeah.
learned in junior high, and it's
I took the small bus.
okay. Okay.
I just
It's-
know what does a mathematician do when they're constipated?
I don't know.
They work it out with a pencil.
With a pencil. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That-
Well, you know
I
the
know
difference
one
between an
joke.
extrovert mathematician and an introvert mathematician, don't you?
What's that?
The extrovert stares at your toes.
Oh, yes.
Anyway, so there you go. All right, that was a groaner.
All right.
All right, getting
all right. Yeah.
back.
So go
You
ahead.
want me to do
No.
the quadratic equation?
Yeah, I want to tell you now. Well, all right. So it's
How do I
basically-
know you didn't collaborate before the show?
Because you're going to give him some after you see how I do it.
Okay, I have no idea how
You'll
to do
see.
it.
You'll see the
Like,
first one. It's so easy.
potato plus.
All right. No.
Okay.
We'll show you.
All right,
I'll show you.
So hang on,
All right.
hang on. So what the equation is, the answer to what x equals, you want to get x on one side, is x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b
let me
squared
just
minus
show you
4ac, the whole darn thing all over 2a. And we memorized that in junior high. And John, I know you did too. Maybe you forgot, but I'm sure that you did do that for at least a couple weeks in junior high.
Everybody does it.
Everybody learns that formula. And all I'm trying to say is that there's a simpler way to do it. And the way to do it is to realize that the solutions are actually statistics about the answer. Okay, so
in this field, you see a potential quadratic. All right, go ahead.
okay, so quadratic equations generally, the way to look at it is instead of thinking of them as just the coefficients a, b, and c, we call those the coefficients of x squared, the coefficient of x, and the coefficient of
In this case,
unity.
the coefficient would be 2. The coefficient would be 3 in this one. You see that, John?
Yes.
I don't
Okay.
see it.
So, okay, so you can
You don't
put
see
in
my
the
screen,
four-
John?
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
I see
Greg?
I
it.
can see it.
No, I see Wolfram. Is that what you're trying to show me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I got a quadratic. X squared plus 2x plus 3x equals 0.
Okay,
Okay.
so you can put the input here, and then Greg will say the output before you hit.
Yeah. So
Right.
for instance,
Right. Okay, got
we're
it.
just gonna change these coefficients around.
Uh-huh.
Instead of 2, maybe we put a 3 here. But let's just have Greg continue on what it is here.
All right. Well, anyway, what I'm trying to get at is that whether it's a quadratic or a cubic or a quartic, any of those, the coefficients are actually statistics telling you something about the solutions, not telling you the solution itself, but telling you things about the solution. So for example,
And who
if
came
I
up with this?
divide-
Who came up with this concept?
I don't know. I've never seen anybody else
Greg
do
did.
it. But,
Greg did. All right,
but
you did.
it's
Greg.
not like it's
This
unknown.
is-
People
it's
have
a very-
recognized.
Yeah, that would be Greg. All right, go on. You got to
Okay.
say, I
So-
have this new
so
method.
it comes
All right, go
from
ahead.
Okay, it comes from a very elementary thing. It was a
Mhm.
Carl Friedrich Gauss back a long time ago found out that if you have a polynomial, that's a polynomial would be if I have x to the cubed, then it's a cubic. If it's x to the fourth, it's a quartic, and so on. If it has the highest order term in any equation would be the nth order polynomial. Okay, and so
You lost every non-mathematician. Speak to a
Well, let him go.
non-mathematician.
quadratic is a second order polynomial because the highest order is x squared. Does
What's
that
an
make
order?
sense, John?
It does make sense, and it
Okay.
doesn't matter as long as this
Well, it
is
does-
the
it does-
formula.
it does-
It does. But for this to show that you can do it in your head,
Yeah,
as
well,
long
we'll
as
get
the
there.
answer
I'm trying to
becomes
show
what you
a little bit
say,
bigger,
but understand.
trying to get to the bigger picture. Okay, so
Okay.
Carl Gauss said if it's a cubic, there's 3 solutions. If it's a quadratic, there's 2 solutions. If it's a quartic, there's 4 solutions, and you can always write
Got it.
them out as x minus first solution, x minus the second solution times x minus the third solution. You can actually write it out as a multiplication of all those. And if any one of those if x is equal to any one of those solutions, then that factor will be 0 and the whole thing will be 0. Did I lose you on that one?
No, we're good. We're good.
Okay,
Let's-
so
I
for
want the
example, x squared, I can
demonstration.
write x minus x1 and times x minus x2 is another way of writing the whole thing. I don't know x1 and x2. Those are the solutions I'm trying to find. But if I multiply that out, I get x1 times x2. Well, that's the coefficient of unity. Therefore, I know that the last equation is the product of the solution.
Okay.
Okay,
So
so
all
you
that you
found
do
the
in your
answer
head
by
because
doing
we don't understand any of what you're saying. All right. So we'll
Seriously?
understand a lot.
Did I lose you, John? Really?
No, we're good. No, I'm
Okay, I thought-
saying.
And then the
let's
second
put-
equation,
let's
the coefficient of B is the average of the solutions. Okay, and what I always do is I can always divide through by the A, so I can always bring that about. So the coefficient of the first number is always going to be 1. Does that make sense? You can always divide through
understand.
by
That's how
A.
you do
We
it. in
want
your
to
head.
see it
So-
demonstrated.
All right. So what do you got? X squared plus
No,
No, but
2x.
put it in that calcalator so we can do
Is
it
it?
real
Is it?
time.
Hang on.
Wait. We can't do it in the calculator because Greg will
Okay.
see it.
No, it's fine. Let me just let me understand. X squared.
No,
X
I changed
plus
it. I'm
2x.
giving a new one. I got a
Okay.
new one for you.
Okay.
X squared plus x plus 4x equals 0.
Okay, so the coefficient of x is 1, and that's the average. That's actually minus the average, okay, because I did minuses. So the average is minus a half, the average of the 2 solutions. And the product of the 2 solutions is 4 plus 4. So what I need to do is take the average squared. So I take minus a half, and then so I got a half squared is a fourth, minus 4 would be minus 3 and 3/4, which would be 15/4. So the square root of that. So that'll be the square root of 15 over 2, and that is an I. I have to put an I in front of it. It's an imaginary. So it'd be 1 plus square root of 15 all over 2.
Okay. What are the 2 solutions?
Minus 1 plus square root of 15 all over 2. Sorry. I'd be shocked if I didn't get it right.
Okay.
This is not hard.
Oh, look at that.
There, that's what I said.
Minus 1/2 minus I times the square root of 15.
Well,
over
I said
2.
minus 1 plus or minus I square root of 15
Plus-
all over 2, which is the same thing.
It's the same thing. Yeah, it's exactly it because it's just
Yeah.
there you
Okay,
go.
let's do 2 more and then
Okay.
we'll be
Isn't that
satisfied.
freaky, John?
It's not that
Isn't
hard.
that freaky?
Do you understand how I'm doing it?
I'll ask my ex, who's a
Okay.
super genius.
Nobody can do that. All right, now
You can. It's not, you can do that. Jeff, you can do this too.
it.
This is not.
No, I don't think in the same way as you. All right, John, you come up with, and I'm gonna write it down, and I'm gonna plug it in there. But you guys can't see, right? All right, John, go ahead and give one.
I won't even be able
This is-
to articulate that.
Just give.
make
All
up-
right, just
I'll
start
just
with.
say- I'll
Here
I'll
we go.
say
X
one
squared.
number.
No, here we
Bottom
go.
line, you
X-
just
John,
gotta come up with two numbers.
two numbers. Come up with two numbers.
It can be negative or
8.
positive.
Eight.
be imaginary.
8x squared. 8x squared. And give me another number.
Minus 10. if that's
Okay.
possible.
Well, 8x
So,
squared
eight
minus
squared
10.
minus
There's
10.
no coefficient of x.
We should give it an x. No, he just come up with a number. 8x squared minus 10x equals 0. Sound good, John?
Sounds
Okay.
perfect.
Well, x
8
equals 0 is a solution because there's no coefficient of unity. So that's easy.
You're
Anyway, the
faster
other
than my
solution
calculator.
would
I
be
can't even
minus
change
4/5.
the screen that fast. Hold on.
Minus
8
4/5.
squared. I'm typing
Because
in
you
Wolfram.
only got. You're not even making it hard. You got to have a coefficient of unity. Or
Well, I'm the
You
wrong
just said-
person to make it hard.
Here we go. 8x squared. That's faster than I can even type. 8x squared minus 10x equals 0. The two solutions,
it's just one solution.
what up?
Well, 0 and 4/5.
0.
Yeah, screen.
Oh, yeah.
0 and 4/5.
0 and 4.
0 is a solution because the product is 0, so it has to be 0.
All right. You
Follow
think
me?
it's 0 and 4/5. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Didn't you say 8/10?
I'm
10.
just teasing. The solution is
Yeah,
0
yes,
and
it is.
5/4.
Okay. Oh, I thought you said 10x squared plus 8x. Okay, I had the other way around. Sorry. I
We'll just
thought.
do-
Okay, Jeff,
10
you do the
10x
last one.
squared.
Make it a little hard.
Okay, I screw it up every time because I got the wrong. I'm solving the wrong problem.
So this one would be 0 and 4/5, exactly as you said.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with the imaginaries that you did the imaginaries in your head. I would do one more.
Well, it's harder, but I could do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I might have to write it down. I'm not autistic.
But you
But those are easy ones. I mean, if they were complicated ones. they'd
I
be
don't know
hard.
anyone that could do just x squared plus x equals 0. I don't even know what that is offhand.
X squared plus x equals 0.
Solutions are
Well,
1.
that 0 is a solution, and
0 and
minus 1
minus
is
1.
a solution.
All right, I saw the minus.
Minus 1 because
I guessed to the 1 and I was even wrong. It's a
Minus
minus 1. All right, so not normal people can't do these, Greg. I'm just saying.
well, in fact, look.
John,
hang
John,
on.
yeah.
Go back down. You see where it says x times x minus 1? That's what I'm talking about. I'm factoring it out.
Yeah, I
X,
understand.
that's basically the same as saying x minus 0 times x plus 1. So therefore, minus 1 is what makes the x plus 1 factor equals 0. So I just go and find all the factors that make it 0, which are the solutions. Does that make
Right.
sense? That's all I'm doing.
It
It's not
makes
that.
sense. It just doesn't make sense to do it. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna do one last
Okay.
one for Greg.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
we'll
let me
make-
see the problem before you get it because I want to make sure I'm solving the right one.
Okay. All right.
It's
Here's what we'll
embarrassing
do.
to get the wrong.
Here,
Okay.
Greg.
Even if it's
Solve
the
the
wrong
problem before he even tells you.
There you go.
I'm not Daniel. I'm not that good.
All right.
Or
Here, I'll let
Joseph.
you.
Joseph, that's the one.
I'll let you see the screen, but I won't hit enter. Okay. Let's do minus 7 x squared.
Okay, that's harder already.
Yep. Plus, let's make it even harder. 3x equals 0.
That's it. Well, 0
That's
is
it.
the solution again because x equals 0 fits. So the solution is going to be plus 3/7.
And,
What is the solutions again? 0,
0
and
and
3/7.
3/7.
Yeah, it is. Freak.
Hard. Just divide by minus 7, and then that's
All right, let
negative
me
the
ask you this.
answer.
It may not be very hard, but have you ever seen anyone that can do that? Do you
Well,
know
I've never
anyone that
seen
can do that
anybody
other than
bother,
yourself?
but that's what I do. I have been doing that for decades now. When I solve quadratic equations, I usually just
Right.
I usually write it out with pencil and stuff, and just to make sure I'm right. But yeah, that's kind of how I do it.
All right. So
I do think in those terms. I
All
think
right.
in terms of the
You're right.
statistics. If you got a cubic, then you have another statistic. Instead of just the average and the product, you also have the standard deviation is another thing that enters in. You know that. So if I know the standard deviation, I know the product, I know the average, I can tell you the answer.
All right. So then now back to the individual, the heckler,
With a
who
quartic,
says
by the
that
way,
you're
let me
not a
just,
good
can I
mathematician.
finish this as long as with
Yes.
a quartic, there's a fourth statistic. With a quintic, it's not solvable because there really are no other statistics that you can say about those, about 5 variables that don't involve multiple copies. In other words, groups of 2 or something like that. I can't say anything about it. And therefore, a quintic is not solvable. And we've known this for 200
Yeah,
years,
it's a
but nobody's
difficult-
explained why that
Because the
reasoning, why
statistical
it's not
aspect.
possible.
That's interesting.
Because there's not enough statistics. And that, I've never heard anybody else say
That is interesting.
So
All right.
I think
so
that's a big deal.
You don't write many papers, Greg. You don't write many papers.
I have a whole ton of unfinished papers.
Yes. So that's like, all right. Now he has,
It's
do you have your,
embarrassing.
do you have your NPA?
I have a few. I mean, I published, I mean, with the NPA proceedings,
just go
probably
ahead.
about 10 papers.
No, but go ahead and grab that book. Do you have it handy near you? Or
Sure.
yeah, just grab that really quick. I
I've
want
got
you to see
several.
this. We got to set the record straight here on this heckler from the other channel, because he needs to be set straight.
Now, is this heckler,
Some of them.
like, have you looked at his post? Is he legit?
Well, I'll get into that in a second.
I didn't know this was
it.
going to be talking about me, but yeah,
I know. That's why I was
I've
surprised.
Hecklers
edited,
are fun.
several of these.
Open up, Greg. Open it up.
These are like phone books. I'm telling you, this is a
What's
lot
in
of
there?
content.
What's in there?
It's all scientific papers from authors all over the world
Yeah.
who published in our proceedings.
And thousands and thousands and billions of equations. And who edited it and checked every single equation in there?
Yeah.
Who?
That's what I do.
That's Greg. And how long did it take you to do that?
Well, I did it myself for 4 years, but
It took that book to do it for 4 years?
And this is fun to you.
Wait, Greg.
No,
Hold up. Greg, how long did it take you to do that book?
1
year to edit every single equation or check every single equation of somebody else's work.
I would say there's probably, there's maybe 120 papers in each of these, something like that. It's over 100.
It's fascinating. Sorry, Greg,
and
go ahead.
I would say more than close to half of our authors. I'd say about a third of the authors, maybe more, 40% are outside of the US. So we got authors from Russia. We got authors from, France. We got authors from Africa. I mean, it's unbelievable. So the connection with people like this, and they're kind of like, ResearchGate, in that they're people who, who some of them are academics, some of them are engineers, a lot of engineers, I'd say, maybe a third academics, 40% engineers, and then everybody else is in there. But we don't, and a lot of them have doctorates. So it's not like we're talking about people that,
all right,
that aren't qualified.
I don't want to go back to, but you checked every equation there. That's the impressive part. Now, John, you had a question for Greg?
No, you obviously have a passion for it, and it's not tedious for you. This is probably fun, right? For you to go through that.
I mean, it's everything's a little bit tedious, let's be honest, so there's times when but yeah, I very much enjoy doing it. There comes a point, and I'll just be frank, where it's like, I've seen this before and somebody else is writing another paper and saying the same stuff. And it's like, it starts to get tedious, at that point, I'll be honest. But
Okay.
I do like exploring new areas, and I have tons of areas of interest. And trust me, this quadratic equation stuff is tip of the iceberg. There's so much more.
Yes, we know, but this is, I wanted to bring it up because it's something that everyone can get their head around, and to see the impressive. Now, there's something else this heckler had brought up, and so I'm going to see if you could do this in your head, because I can. And
okay. Well,
he
now
says
you're
it's
really
impossible to solve. Well, no, it's really simple. The guy, this answers the question: is he legit or not? Is this problem? Okay. Take a look at that equation, Greg. It follows from the Riemann hypothesis proof.
I'm not.
We're not seeing it. We're seeing
anything.
It says you are screen sharing.
Yeah, but
I see Wolfram Alpha, but it's stuck.
That's Wolfram Alpha. All right. Okay.
I don't know. It seemed to be stuck. I'm not sure why.
Start.
I see your face now.
Do you see something there?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Read the equation and make sure it's the same.
It says 1/2 times the quantity -I minus square root of -a plus -1 plus 2a.
Okay. There's a
You want
trick
me to
question.
Simplify that?
Nope. Trick question.
Okay.
What is the general solution for all of the zeros of this equation?
Oh, boy. Well, in order to be zero, then the top would have to be infinite, and it
Oh,
never
sorry.
is.
If A is a real number.
If A is a real number, there are
Mhm.
no zeros
Thank you. How do you know that?
because in order for the whole thing to be zero, the square. Let's see. A could be positive or negative. Okay, so the 1/2 is, let me understand, is the brackets on the bottom, is, in other words, it 2 times all of that, or is it one half? In other words, is the 1/2 have a bracket around it or not? I'm not quite clear on that.
Braces or parentheses?
I'm trying to determine if the quantity with the I minus square root, is that in the denominator? Okay, they have it in the numerator.
Look at the
Okay.
input. Yeah.
Yes, I see that. Yes, I see
That's
it now.
clear.
Okay.
So 2
Okay,
is in the
well,
denominator. Yes.
yeah, because let's see, the minus square root, okay, the square root would have to be a positive imaginary number. It would have to be positive imaginary I,
Right.
which would mean that would have to, well, so for example, if A was -1, or if A was +1, then we would have square root of -1. If A were +1, we'd have -1 plus 2, square root of that would be square root of -1, which is I. Negative I minus I would be -2I. So we'd have to get negative I, although I guess it could be plus or minus since it's a square root. So we could say that positive A equals 1 could be a solution, I suppose, because the square root could be negative. Then we'd have
And this
negative.
equation is something the heckler said in one of the posts.
Yeah, so there was a statement at the end of the let me go to the paper. There's a statement at the end of the paper, and John and Greg knows this. We've been through this for years. This very end. Do we need to include a proof for the last statement, or do we not? Is it something obvious? I'm going to get to the paper, and I'll show you the last statement. And in fact, that mathematician, I'm not going to say the university, you remember him though, Greg. We were corresponding back and forth at
Yeah,
Dean.
I do remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he was on this issue too. But it really made me lose hope in the future of our mathematics. That people don't understand this.
Well, I'd like to say something about that, but you
right there, equation 33.
Okay.
So it implies if you take this and you express it in explicit form, which is just like kind of the equation, it's above, then it's so easy to prove that right there implies real part 1/2.
Mm-hmm.
And it reduces to the equation, and it gives you in the solutions. If there were any solutions other than real part 1/2, it would give you a quadratic, which would have the solution here plus or minus square root. Now the plus here has, if we do that, that has zeros. The solution is.
I'm looking at A equals +1, and that's where the inflection point is showing, isn't it? Or it isn't.
The solution here, the root here for this one is when A equals 0.
Mm-hmm.
And this would be solving for
square
the
root of
imaginary
-1. Oh, right, square root of, yeah.
Now this one works. We change the sign.
Square root of when A is 0, then you get square root of -1, which is I.
But when this is minus, you don't get any
Right.
zeros.
That's when I was looking at. Well,
Right.
no, when I'm looking at A equals 1, then square root of -1. Well, yeah. I need you to go back up there.
I'm sorry. Hold on.
I see, because yeah, this, you can't get a square root. You can't get you have to have the inside of that would have to be -1.
Yes.
And if A was any number, it wouldn't be -1. Although if A were negative, we'd have square root of -3.
We also got to remember it's within the critical strip. But the answer is that there are no solutions, and Wolfram Alpha will confirm that very easy.
Mm-hmm.
And there's many ways to go ahead and prove that right there. No solutions exist. So any calculator will show that. the heckler's thing was, oh, that's an
So the
extraordinary claim.
difference
You
in the
need to prove
equation
that.
is
And I'm like, I
whether or
I
not
need
there's
to,
a plus or minus in the square root.
either way, what he was trying to do was trying to
Because the
plug
way
in
I see it,
different numbers.
the square root, it gives you two solutions by definition. So whether it's plus
Yeah.
or minus shouldn't matter. If it's true for one, it should be true for the other. And 0 is a solution for both.
Well, one could be
I-
extraneous.
Okay, I'm just saying square root could be plus or minus. So plus or minus I. That's all I'm saying. And so whether or
Let's
not
just
the
take the
sign in
limit.
front of the square root is plus or minus, give the same solution set. No?
Anyone can take the limit. So here you'll see that they're all imaginary complex, all the limits. There's no so we got, if we take a to infinity, but that's outside the
So
critical.
what's this
strip.
guy's beef?
He's a troll, that's all. But
Okay.
he claims to be a mathematician, so I wanted to bring that up. I wouldn't bring it up except that I don't like that I'm used to insults, on the side.
Yeah, I'm used to him too. I feel like I didn't do so good on your test here today.
You did. No, you looked
did.
at that and said there's no solutions. Then you questioned a little bit, which is fine, but it's you certainly can do quadratic in your head. And if you had the full equation and background for this, you'd be able to do it. The biggest issue, so it's
I don't know.
I just wanted to make everyone understand.
I feel,
you're not a poor mathematician. You're an extraordinary mathematician. You have very strange gifts.
Yeah, I guess my skill level is more in really generating interesting ideas and looking at things in a new way. That's what I do well. And I don't consider myself the world's greatest mathematician by any stretch. And I hate proofs. I do them, but I hate them.
Yeah, no.
That's just me. And I like a really elegantly written equation, and I strive to make my equations as elegant as possible, so they're as clear as possible. So that's what turns me on.
All right, cool. Let's turn into a different direction then.
Okay.
A lot going on this month, and has Truth Social gone public yet?
I think
It's
they're going.
close.
today.
It's
going.
coming. I heard recently that he's
Audio
going to
edit.
make $3 billion out of the deal. So, but he can't
That's
use
what they
it.
say, and they
Yeah.
have the.
I mean, the number seems somewhat arbitrary. It sort of depends on the price, which I don't know if that's been established yet.
And I guess his 450 million dollar bail was cut to 175 by a
Yeah.
5-judge panel in New York today.
Yeah.
So I guess he's going to come up with that money either, however they want it.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. The whole thing
Democrats
is
are
just,
like, yay, corruption.
yeah.
Like, where's the victim? Oh, he paid back all his loan. Doesn't matter. Yay, get him.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. Other real estate investors might have a problem investing in New York then, you think? Doesn't matter. Yay. These people are flipping out of their mind.
Yeah.
Insane. Paid back every loan. Number one, a very high level client. They would definitely loan to him again. And then like, well, Mar-a-Lago is only worth, let me do it, the judge, 18 million. That's what I say. it's the
Have you
most
done
bizarre
I've
thing
actually done
ever
the math
seen.
on that. Have you looked how many acres that property
It's
is?
No,
for
but
that
I-
judge to say it's worth
1
18
acre
million is
alone would be
absolutely
easily in the
insane.
millions, and
Yeah.
he's
Of
got
course.
like 17
This
or
is-
20
this is a
acres. Or
joke.
something.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
it's
just
a
the land.
joke.
Yeah. Oh, it's right there. It's
pathetic.
between two coasts. It's Mar-a-Lago. He's got the ocean and the
And
lake
the
on
banks,
both sides.
in his disclosure document says, this is how we came up with the evaluation.
Yeah.
Please do your own due diligence. And they did.
Right.
He paid back the loans in full with interest. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's
It's-
obviously they've just made him a political enemy. But Truth Social stock, last I heard, was like close to $50 a share. I don't know what it
Maybe
does
we
on.
could have Greg's the analytical dude. And he can
Yeah,
type
can you go
real
look?
fast.
Can you see on yours?
I don't
what,
know if the
I
IPO
haven't looked
went
at it
today,
yet.
though.
I did I followed it when it first came out, and I got in line to become active on it, and I got in, and then I just never did anything with it. It's just, I'm not into social media. I don't see the point in it, honestly. I know that's probably
You're on social
bad to
media right
say that.
now. YouTube is social media.
Greg, you are so social. You are Mr. Soch.
I guess so. Anyway, I don't know what you want me to look at. I'm just not.
What's the
I have a
stock price
Facebook
for Truth
account and I use
Social?
that, but other than that, so you want me to look at like the stock
I'm
and
kind
stuff?
of curious.
I don't know. Okay, I'm looking in
Truth-
Wikipedia. I
No,
could
no,
stock
they'll say
price.
it's worth negative $1 million.
Yeah. All right. I'm looking up Wikipedia stock price. See what that's, or Truth Social stock price. See
Yeah.
what at this point it says 48.50.
Okay.
That's the Class A shares. So
So what happens when it goes public? Is it going to shoot up instantly for day one?
I don't know.
I doubt it. There's enough people to try to squash it. I would imagine.
Yeah, there's going to be bulls and bears for sure. It'll be interesting. It might be really volatile. That's what I would expect.
Yeah.
And it's going to eventually find a price. I know there's a lot of
Audio
people who will probably
edit.
buy a few shares just because they want to support it. And then there'll be a lot of huge billionaires that, shorten it. So who knows?
Yeah, but there's going to be billionaires.
But
that are
they
gonna
do that with every
beefing it up,
stock.
Yes, they do. I mean, that's the whole point. Now you're hitting a hot button of mine, John, and that is I think shorting altogether should be illegal. That's my
Yeah, I
opinion.
do
You
too.
can't sell what you don't have, period. That's all, end of issue. Because that's where we get into having all these markets manipulated in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So you either have it or you don't, and that's it. But I'm hard nosed that way. I want to get rid of all the shenanigans on Wall Street.
Well, that's
But
why I don't actually. That's
reality
why I
is
don't
still
even trade
there.
on Wall Street anymore because exactly somebody shorted. It was they promoted this particular stock, decades ago, and said all the reasons why everyone needs to buy it. And as soon as I bought into it, they shorted it the next day, and I lost it all. And I'm going, I'm not doing this again.
Yeah. And it's totally out of your control. It's
I
not,
know.
it's
I
not
was
even
like,
the
that's
market, it's
not
a
even
handful
fair.
of billionaires, and they're
Well, they
setting
call
the prices on
the
everything.
meme stock or the Reddit stocks, right? Where they're like,
Yeah.
They did it
and
with
then they were
Bitcoin a
in
few
there
years
saying,
ago.
"Oh, you want to short it? These have an emotional meaning for me." And then they I guess communities
You're
in
talking
Reddit,
GameStop, and
GameStop.
I bought
yeah,
some
that was amazing.
GameStop.
It was amazing. Yes.
and then the
Awesome.
hedge funds are like, "Oh my goodness, this is horrible."
No, that was great.
And then
because they were the
Robin
ones trying to
Hood
short it.
shut it down to appease
Yeah.
the hedge funds
Mhm.
because they were losing so much money
There's
because
been-
of their shorts. And
John, there's
it's
been
like,
so many companies that have gone under because they've been shorted out of business. It's happened over and over. I mean,
There's
literally
countries that
thousands
have gone out of
times.
business because
Countries
they're
that,
short.
yeah. I mean, it's because we've allowed these people to
Mhm.
go in there and make up their funny money, which is basically what short selling is you're creating a new stock when it didn't exist before. And it's like issuing stock. And what gives you the right to do that? The only people that should be able to do that is the company that,
Right.
that benefits from it. It's a terrible, terrible game. I am so opposed to any short selling at all. That's my stance.
yeah.
Well,
That's,
what about
we say that it's rigged, and that's how it's rigged. So again, getting back to this particular case, who's going to win, the riggers or the people that want to have it go somewhere? And it'll be a battle. I don't know. It could be
It'll be
GameStop actually
interesting.
won. So, or at least for a while. So at least, maybe the people that are buying the stock that are the bulls are going to win. I don't know.
I don't think they'd be going public unless they knew they had enough to counteract the short. It's just my belief.
Right.
So
you're
I think they got Elon Musk is sitting there ready. I think there's certain world leaders, Saudis, everyone's ready to just buy it. That's what I think.
Yeah.
So I do believe it'll be volatile, but I think they're about ready to bankrupt some people on this one. Is what I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Did you guys see that? I hate to share this. Did you see Elon Musk's tweet? I saw it live and my jaw dropped. Well, no, listen. This is what he did. You ready for me? You ready for me to tell you what it was?
Yeah.
I got a copy of it. It had a picture of a 7-Eleven with the gas price at $7.11 a gallon.
Oh.
And then his stock closed at the end of the day at $7.11.
Interesting. So is that a prediction for this year, you think?
I don't think it closed that day. He predicted in the morning.
Oh. So that's proof that it was rigged, or that's
How much
how does
power
that
does
happen?
how much power do you have to actually have a stock land on the exact penny
Yeah,
Okay,
at the end of the
somebody
day?
needs to
I see
Google
what you're saying. So
Elon
Elon
Musk
Musk has got a lot of
7-Eleven.
power, is what you're saying.
I'll overlay the image of it that he did.
I don't
But
remember gas prices ever getting to 7-Eleven. That was as
I
bad
don't
as it
know.
was.
I
It
don't
wasn't
know.
that high.
That was his tweet. It might have been an image. Well, in
It's probably
California,
somewhere in the Bay Area.
Maybe California. I
but the
suppose.
tweet came in the morning. Picture of 7-Eleven with the gas price 7-Eleven. End of the day, his stock closed at 7-Eleven.
But what about all
Interesting.
coincidence? Like all that stuff from The Simpsons. And
Oh
yeah?
yeah, there's a lot of that.
Is
my
that
gosh.
real? To me, I'm looking at this stuff.
I
and
don't
they have
know.
like they have like there's a
don't know.
famous one of like at the Grammys, and it was a selfie of all these
Uh-huh.
entertainers, and like 10 years before, The Simpsons had that exact same picture.
Yep.
I'm like, there's no way. There's no way.
Oh yeah,
Can I
they had
can
an
I put
episode
my
with
Audio
down the escalator. They had Simpsons had an episode with coming down the escalator years before he did.
Here's my 2 cents.
Yes.
And that is, and again, you can call me crazy. Okay. So, but this is what
Oh, I
Crazy.
will.
I think I've said this in my own talk that a lot of this stuff has been going on for a long time. There have been good guys and bad guys, black hats and white hats, if you want to call them that, whatever, for decades, long before most people had any idea this was going on. I know that, the junk with the debt-based Federal Reserve money system, that was long before The Simpsons going on. Anyway, I think there was a plan to turn things around, and it was in the works even in the 90s and even before that, and that there were good guys and bad guys even then, and somehow the guys in control of The Simpsons were the good guys. Don't ask me how. I don't know.
Control of
But
the Simpsons. You mean the writers, or is just somebody
I don't
working
know.
on their staff?
I don't know. They're
somebody
working
giving
with.
them-
Let me back up. We
Yeah.
know that the CIA has had a hand in making a lot of movies,
Yeah,
and the FBI. I mean, that's been known for decades.
yeah.
Is anybody disputing that?
It's called Project Mockingbird, is what it is.
Mockingbird.
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So what's the counter to so supposedly Project Mockingbird is all filled with black hats, the bad guys. Am
But
I-
maybe not, is what you're saying.
No, what
Okay.
I'm saying is, well, either that or that there's a counter to Project Mockingbird. If I
Yeah.
were on that team, if I were on the team good guys and I was trying to come up with something, you use the same kind of techniques that the bad guys use, except you use them to benefit you. And so they were doing, predictive programming long before, there's stuff about like the 9/11 towers and all that stuff going down from the 70s. They were talking about, they had stuff that's predictive programming about that and about other events that have since happened. So for whatever reason, I don't know. I'm not in control. I can't prove it. I have no other way of knowing except to say that maybe either the bad guys thought this was going to somehow work in their favor or the good guys planned this.
Yeah,
I don't know what
I
else
don't
to
know.
say.
It's tricky.
I think
It's
it was
been-
planned. I think that the whole
Audio
thing was
edit.
planned back then. I do. But
Yeah,
was
I
it-
definitely believe that more than that there's some Simpsons prophecy or crystal ball that they
yeah,
have.
I don't
you
think
know?
I
Yeah.
think it's
It's just
predictive
eerie.
programming. They
It is
knew it was
eerie. It
coming,
is
and they
eerie. Yeah.
they planned it out, and now they're trying to make things happen the way they did. I mean, another one was like, remember a couple of years ago in Canada, they had the truckers boycott,
Oh, how could you
Yeah.
forget?
and they had the guy there was a Simpsons, I think it was the Simpsons, where the guy that was the governor or I don't know if it wasn't necessarily the president, the prime minister of Canada, but maybe it was something like that. And he crawls out as they're doing this truckers thing. I mean, it was so many of the details were the same. It's just incredible. Do you know what I'm talking about? This played
No,
out. in The
I
Simpsons.
don't. I don't. I'm
That's
not familiar.
another
I don't know
example.
the episode, but
That happened.
Send me a link for that one. I want to
I'll
check
find
it.
it.
All right.
It was a couple years ago, but it was something very similar to that.
Audio edit.
So again, did that just happen by coincidence? Yeah, you can think so. I don't. Sure. I mean, I think that, some of it's like not just planned, but, they say, hey, we predicted this, let's make it happen. Who knows? But yeah, there's a certain amount of that going on.
I agree. So, as you guys know, we were talking about a possible female podcast or co-host to join us.
Yeah.
That girl has just yesterday declined, and that's okay. I think she wanted to, but there's a lot of things going on, so she can't. But maybe we could put it out there, since we do virtual or remote podcasting.
Sure.
Anyone that has some videos, that we are looking for a woman millennial ideal, and we think that would be important. So if anyone has some video footage, please put a link in the comments if you would like to join our podcast, and we could just open it up to that. What do you think, guys?
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
So anyone out there, female co-host, put a clip in the video, link to us, and we'll find a way to get in contact at that point. I did want to mention that, because now, as I was looking over the analytics, we now I think it was from Andres's video, that podcast brought in a lot of the female audience. So with podcasts, it's usually 45% women and 55% men. We are at exactly that. And it all came from his, because before we had like 80-90% of all of our audience was men. But
we don't want this just a dude's corner.
no, well, now we have 45% of our audience are women. So it's time to get a woman co-host. So put that out there. And now, guys, I only briefly heard about this, but do either of you guys know what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse?
I know the history. Is there something that happened?
Yeah.
Well, no, specifically
Recent?
Yeah.
Yes, recently
Okay,
he was
go ahead.
being heckled at some kind of a conference and supposedly stormed out. And that's what they're claiming, that he stormed out because he was being heckled. And he was
see.
being heckled. That's true. And he did leave. But then later on, I saw another video of him with his people he was with, and they said, well, we were scheduled to leave. We just left when we were supposed to leave. And that's pretty much all that happened. And
I heard nothing
was-
about that.
yeah,
What was the conference? What city? Where was it at?
I don't
is there
know where it
video of
was, but he was speaking somewhere. I don't know, was it a college or something, and was getting heckled by somebody and left. And they made a much bigger deal out of it than
I'm
it
surprised
should
the
have been.
college would even let him anywhere.
I'm not sure if it
near.
was a college. He was at some
Usually
venue.
colleges
I don't
won't
know.
let anyone First Amendment, any conservative.
Yeah.
They won't let.
Yeah.
They'll prompt the students to protest.
They used
and
to
say,
let in
"Hate
people
speech,
like
everything."
Dinesh D'Souza and Ben Shapiro, but they don't go to colleges anymore.
No,
either. I don't know.
because the opposition funded by whoever will say, no, there's only one single point of view, and it's only the liberal point of view. There will be
Right.
no other points of view ever.
Right.
It's like college is supposed to be like, let's
Yeah.
pit an atheist versus a Catholic guy versus a Muslim, and let's have them all go at it. Now
Well, there
it's
are
just like,
some.
Nope, it's
Jordan
very rare.
Peterson-
Even Arizona State University, there's a lot of people. Their top donator won't fund them won't donate anymore, because it's like, come on, you have to have different points of view. It's
And they won't do
absolutely
it.
ridiculous to have it. It's
Again,
just
I don't
so-
know if Kyle Rittenhouse was at a college or not, but I do know there are some speakers like Jordan Peterson that do go to present somewhat, right side of the aisle.
I thought he
Points
was
of view.
left. I thought he was
Well,
left.
he is. That's why I say somewhat.
Okay.
he's not all in by any stretch, but
Now back to Rittenhouse, if we want to talk about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do we have video of it? Any
yeah, I
other?
saw some video of it. It's out there.
Wh-
Both him at the venue, and I watched it, and it was like, what's the big deal? Some
I'm
guy
just curious.
heckled and he left.
After
and-
that event, he won the case, and what's where he was supposed to go to college, and then I don't know if he got heckled out of college.
Yeah, I
or
mean,
I don't
life
know
is tough
what
for
his
him.
current-
He gets heckled everywhere he goes, and I think that's going to be true for a long time. It's very sad. I wouldn't want to be him, At the same time, he's got a bunch of money, I guess, and that's good. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
would
envy
go
him.
in some rural area and just live my life, and that.
That's kind of what I would do, but I don't know what his plans are. I have heard that he wants to, because he's won some awards, that he wants to try to help other people that are in similar situations with their legal battles. That's what I've heard. I don't know if that's true or not, but I have heard that.
I see the career of a politician coming out of this. It's really the only place
Could
you
be.
go, because politicians are used to being heckled. It's kind of like his calling now.
Yeah,
You don't
whether
think
he
in the
likes it or
future
not.
he's got, yeah. So, well, maybe he wouldn't mind that. Maybe he wouldn't mind that.
I don't know. It's
I don't know.
it's hard to say. Hard to say what he's going to do with it. But yeah, that could happen. He doesn't. I don't think he's going to need to work at all if he. If
No,
I
but you want to
understand
do
his
something.
awards,
You want to have
but
some sort of
you
activity.
want to do something
do
to
something.
contribute.
Right.
Yeah, I get that. So yeah.
Well, yeah. So speaking of storming, somebody else stormed in recently. I did see a little bit of the clips, but apparently there was a stampede at the border, and I'm not talking like cattle
I know.
stampede.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
lots of
Basically, it
that.
was in Texas. I'm not exactly what sector, but it's the area that the Texas National Guard is protecting, and they have barbed wire, like 3 layers of it, and then the other side of this barbed wire is the legitimate border wall that they put up, and on that side is Border Patrol. So they breached the first barrier that Texas.
Wait, really? How many people was this? I mean, do you see video of it? Are you talking like
Yeah, I saw a
hundreds or
video.
thousands?
It looks like probably about 300, I would assume.
Okay.
They are all males. They are all 18 plus. This was
Not women and
families.
kids, refugees.
No,
Sorry.
and I would presume it's probably. I believe they were noted as to be Venezuelan, and we
Okay.
all know that they emptied their prisons out. They did, and it's an economic issue. And
I'm saying that over and over again.
so these people were stuck there, right? And then they're like, they go through Mexico, they do the journey. The cartels control that, so they probably owe the cartels $5,000 to $10,000 a piece, and they're going to have payment due on that. So who knows what kind of extortions? Maybe they'll mess with their family, or who knows. So they broke the barrier and went right across to the Border Patrol, and every one of those people, and they trampled some of the National Guard in Texas, and every one of those people were processed and released into the interior. Because once you get the Border Patrol, that's the stance of the current administration. You get there, and they're pitching it as, oh, look, these cruel people, they had to go through, and they don't vet these people. They have no idea who they are. They don't share data from Venezuela about criminal activity. So these people aren't vetted. So more than likely, they have a court date in 2030, 2032 to come, and 90% of those or more lose their cases. So it's just, in Texas, it's like, okay, we got to do something. They sealed that border, and then they started routing them out through Arizona and California. But this group went through that route, and they breached the court. And if I owed the cartel $10,000, they want their payment. These people are vicious people, and everyone that comes through the cartel makes money, right? So it's why is this administration making the cartel money, revenue, billions and billions? They make more off human trafficking than they do with the drugs, or pretty darn close.
Well,
It's
been that way for a while now.
Yeah. So why are they putting money in the pockets of the cartel? Why? What's the point of that? And then when they get here,
Because the cartel is putting their money in the pockets of the politicians who are supporting them. It's obvious.
Well, I can say, like, it's obvious for all of Mexico, but I don't think there's an assumption. I think they don't care. Eventually they're going to get amnesty, and hopefully they'll remember the favor and vote one way. The 8 million that came over.
Yeah.
I think,
do you think that's what people? A lot of people are saying that. Well, a lot of people saying that. Do you really think that they need that? I mean, that was what they call that replacement theorem or theory. Where they do believe that that they will replace the conservative white voter with
audio edit.
I don't know if it,
I don't
know if it's that.
They need
I
it,
just
that,
struggle. I struggle to find, why would you let men with not non-families storm the border and let them have into the interior without vetting them. That to me is absolutely
The
inexcusable.
only reason you
It's
would
a
do it is
national
because that's what you want.
But it doesn't make any sense. And those
Well,
people,
you gotta
how
think
in
of
the,
it a different
how
way.
in the
Think
heck
of
are they going to make money? Because
think
there's
in
no
terms of
work
the criminal
visas for
minds.
these
What would they
people.
want, John?
Oh, if a Venezuelan gang member? Oh yeah, I would.
No,
I
what would the
go-
politicians, what would
Audio
these
edit.
people who are intentionally letting them in
Which
want
clearly they are.
from
Well,
a bunch of illegals coming in?
I would put them in a bunch of. I would put the bulk of them in swing states,
Yeah.
and then some kind of loophole with the mail-in ballots or whatever, and then eventually get.
Well, and also just create as
amnesty.
much chaos as you possibly can. That's part of the formula. It's more chaos,
But-
the better.
But is it even the places like, okay, now they're getting a lot of the like Texas and other places are having them go to Chicago and New York, and a lot of them are voluntarily going there because they get unbelievable benefits, right? They get set up in hotels. They get debit cards of like so many thousands per a month to do with it. I would do that if I was coming through there. I would go, I'm going to whoever's going to give me the best benefits. And so why would these, and that's hurting these Democrat strongholds. So I don't know if they thought about it too much.
There's another way to look at all of this.
I have another theory too. Yeah, go ahead.
You're ticking
Go on.
off a lot of core Democratic voters from those areas saying, why do these people get better benefits than our military veterans or impoverished Americans?
Jeff, I want to
Right.
hear yours first.
Well, John, all right, John, you make all valid points
That's
from the
because they're
perspective.
sanctuary cities, and there's
Right,
the
but
law
I think
says
that
they
they're-
have to give them accommodations.
Okay, but you're looking at this in terms of an American, and what I think if I look outside of America and this global agenda, there's an author, and I can't remember his name, who spoke that when there's two major powers and a new one is on the rise, in order to avoid war between the two powers, you demolition the previous power and build up the new one, and that would be demolishing the
Thucydides'
United
trap.
States and increasing China. So that I don't remember who the author was, but it was somebody who goes back 100 years.
Well,
Kissinger
there's
was a big
enough. There's
proponent
enough
of that.
corruption within.
Who was
our-
that? Who is that, Greg?
Henry Kissinger was a big proponent of the Thucydides trap idea, which is what you're talking about.
Okay, so if you were going,
I don't know if he wrote this book, but he
yeah,
definitely
so
pushed
if
this
you
idea.
have so if you have a rising power, China, and there's other people from around the world who have money, aren't American, aren't Chinese, you don't really care where you go, you have all the money in the world, it might be in their interest to have a controlled demolition of the United States and build up China for their benefit. It avoids war, which, you know, if you have, it's like back to the Cold War with Russia and the United States. One had to kind of crumble, and the United States, or Russia, was the one that crumbled in that time. And the new crumbling economy, or hoped to be crumbling economy, would be the United States. And China rises up, and so on and so forth. So
And I
that's
do
the
think
other
there's
theory.
enough corrupt politicians that are in bed with China
Easy,
financially.
easy.
And I know this is on both sides.
Some
especially-
literally, not even just financially. Some are actually literally with Chinese spies. So
Oh yeah,
Eric, what's his name?
Yeah.
Bang, bang.
but yeah, and all these like the
Audio edit.
and what 20 different accounts and money coming in from China and a bunch of corrupt countries. To me, it's just like, why? I understand tribalism, and I understand, oh, I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican, but anybody to say that that isn't blatant corruption or doesn't pass the smell test is lying, and they're not being intellectually honest, because this is horrible corruption.
Mhm.
They're like, well, prove it. Where's the money? It's like, why do they have all these LLCs and all these different money wiring accounts coming? And then what? It's just nothing to see here. I'm like if the theory of this book is true, it's already been sold out, and the determination and the corruption within the U.S. government is there, right?
but if they succeed, though, there's no no one has well, at least I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know if it's going to succeed or not. I think it's a little more difficult to topple the United States' economy. Obviously, they're doing everything that would help that. But it's very different to topple the United States economy than it is like Venezuela or Soviet Union. It's a very different system.
Look at all these really weird moves that this current administration is making.
Yes.
Of course, there's going to be people to speculate, right? And it's not wrong speculation because it makes zero sense. I mean, even from the immigrants coming across in illegal ways, they don't get work visas, right? How are they supposed to make money except to go to sanctuary cities and get the benefits there? That I mean,
and be turned into debt slaves.
Yeah,
themselves.
I mean, it's unfair for them, right? The legitimate ones, not the gangbangers and all that. And there's a bunch of those, obvious. But what the heck are they supposed to do? Except do petty crime.
They were lied to
sell
too,
stuff.
you know.
Yeah, it's
The people that brought them there are
It's-
nothing but liars.
This is not empathy. This is horrible.
So DeSantis,
All the
I
way
don't really
around.
know, but I didn't really read this article much, but DeSantis is kind of deporting right now. And I follow a little bit of Florida news because
Well,
it's
I
obviously
think
deported.
he's
You heard about it?
His aim is the current collapse of the Haitian government and the gang members that took over it, kind of like what happened in Cuba.
Yeah.
Everybody in jail is not out of jail, is now out of jail. They emptied it, and now they got the gang members, and one of them was a police guy, and they call him the barbecuist or something like that, because he literally lights his opposition on fire and barbecues them. But what DeSantis is doing, and I don't know the details of it, is like the Haitians immigrants. He wants to make sure none of these brutal gang members are going to operate within the U.S., especially in Florida. So he's putting a couple more layers of scrutiny on that and saying, okay, no, we're not accepting any. It's a danger. You can't, until you vet people properly, you have no idea. And there's been plenty of bad acting immigrants that had unbelievable arrest records and were even arrested in sanctuary cities, and they didn't give them the ICE because it's against the law for them to do that, and then they commit murders like the one in Georgia. That is, the culpability is not vetting these migrants, the sanctuary cities not handing them over after they're arrested. And it's like, where's the accountability on these cities and the administration for letting these people in with zero vetting? And you can't tell me. Even the FBI said that we're in a very volatile time with a terrorist attack. We have no idea who's in here. We have no idea. And not to mention, like I alluded to this in another podcast, 80,000 unaccounted kids, minors. They have no idea where they're at. 80,000.
Yeah, line them up.
Traffic.
Where
Where
a
they at?
huge number.
I mean, they cared about 4,000 or 5,000 under the other administration, which they eventually tracked down all but like a couple. But 80,000 are like, oh, it doesn't matter because it's a Democrat doing it. It's fine. It's like, no, this is gross. Stop it. It does. Quit being left or right. This is not cool at all. It's not for the safety of the American citizens. It's not for the safety and the welfare of the immigrants. How are they going to work without work visas? I would have came too.
Jeff, what's your take?
I'm wondering how we're going to pay the Social Security for all these illegal immigrants.
Yeah, right.
Do they get on Social Security?
We're already going into debt.
Well, if they're young and they're working, right,
Mm-hmm.
they can help contribute and pay. And if they're getting a paycheck, they will pay into it,
Yeah.
right?
If they're
not.
working, but illegal, they're
But
not going to be able to
can't.
work legally. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, and to me, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but
I am.
why else would they be doing it unless it's nefarious?
Can I
the higher
put in my
level.
2 cents?
We're waiting, Greg.
Okay,
Yeah.
I've been waiting because I wanted to hear what Jeff had to say.
Yeah.
But I think, John, your reaction is exactly what some people want. And let me just back up and say, I believe that we're watching a show on both sides. I mean, we're being shown all these awful things.
Audio
It's all,
edit.
trying to find the worst thing there, but there's also things that are staged on the other side. And so you gotta take a little bit with a grain of salt, almost everything we see or hear about the border. And I'm not saying, I do believe there's lots of people coming in and all this kind of stuff. So that, just want to back up to say that. The second thing I want to say is the best way to get rid of a bad law is to enforce it to the max as much as possible. And then people will realize what a horrible law it is, and they'll want to get rid
Explain
of
the
it.
situation. Explain the scenario then for that one.
Well, I don't know, like,
The
I'm just
issue
trying
is
to
they're
think of a
not
really
enforcing
stupid
the
law,
current laws. That's why
like
they're
a,
coming
Hold on, John. I want to hear what
like
Greg
if the
has to
speed
say.
limit was reduced to 20 miles an hour, well, then people would go nuts, and then they'd start breaking in and realize we got to change this law. I mean, I don't know, that's not a very great example, but that would be an example that people
But
getting upset
for this
about the law.
situation, how would they apply this law,
And
this
what's
bad
bad
law
law
to the
in this?
max?
Okay, the two
Give me an
things
example.
I've said is just that. What I'm trying to say is I believe that the good guys, if you will, are allowing this to happen, and they want it to seem as bad as it can possibly seem. I'm not saying it isn't bad, but in order for people like you, John, and people the rest of the country to finally wake up and say, hey, this really is bad. We really do need to change this. Because it's so awful what's going on. That's the
But there's
reaction
existing
they
law
want.
that they're not
The existing
enforcing.
law is already there. All we got to do is implement it. It's over in
And
24
this
hours.
administration reversed
Exactly.
all the laws, all the executive orders, which aren't laws,
Except for
Right.
two.
immediately.
But even the laws are not
Two.
bad. So anyway, it isn't going to take a lot to turn things over. What it takes more than anything else is for the American people to finally wake up and say, hey, this is really bad. And let me just point out that this whole immigrant thing, this has been going on in Europe for decades ago, long before it was an issue at all in the Mexican border. There was, people coming in, storming in from the Middle East, coming into Greece and, Italy and places like that. And Americans couldn't care less, just weren't interested. They didn't care about all these things, and now we do hear a little bit about, Hungary is kind of putting a border around them so immigrants can't come in. That's because and Poland is another one, they're becoming very right wing, if you will, because they don't want to have their culture, replaced like was happening in Sweden and some of these other places that we hear about where they're much worse than we are. They're a much smaller country, and they've just been inundated with all these, they just can't handle the quantity of people that are coming in to destroy their country. But Americans were just asleep to it. They weren't paying any attention, saying, gee, let's not let it happen what happened to them. People don't care. But if they finally see it in their face and they see it in their backyard, maybe they'll start to care.
And
So
that's why the sanctuary cities are
Well,
definitely
let me say a
New
word about
York, and
that.
they're seeing a very, like the citizens there are saying, this is ridiculous.
Right.
Otherwise,
They're
they wouldn't
waking
care.
up to a degree they never would have before. I mean, we've all known, at least I've known for decades now, that cities most of them are run by Democrats, and they're corrupt as corrupt can
Any
be.
major city,
And they keep
all of
voting
them, they're a
for them.
monopoly.
It's like, what is it going to take to wake these people up? Well, you know what? They are finally starting to wake up. You see communities that are from these, sanctuary cities that are finally getting it. Finally getting the fact that they're just completely surrounded by corrupt people who are making all these ridiculous promises that they never intend to keep. And now they're saying maybe we ought to vote for the other side for a change and get these people out.
So
Greg sees it
as a good thing then.
I do.
I do. I
it's
think
a
as long as it's
necessary evil
temporary. Yes,
create
necessary
and I
evil.
think-
an ultimate
think-
good. Yes, I do.
the migrants going to the sanctuary cities, which I would definitely go to,
Yeah.
because you're not gonna, you get housing and all that other stuff. I would go, but it's causing.
here's what I
and
believe-
They only have a tiny bit of them, only a tiny bit. And remember when Florida sent, what was it, 50 to Martha's Vineyard, and they had them
That's all it took.
deported in one day.
Yeah.
And everybody, all the rich, super liberal elites, they're like, we are a sanctuary island. Come one, all come. They're
They
like,
quit that
no, get them
fast.
out.
They
And
quit
then
that fast.
all the commentators on the news and the left wing news We're like, this is absolutely horrible that they're using these migrants this way. How dare Florida do this? Oh, but not say, isn't this a bit hypocritical? You can't house 50 people and you deport them? Are you kidding me? Are you? It's bizarro world.
Those
Any
50
kind
though,
of-
I was watching that, and those 50 got set up
Unbelievable.
good. They all went on a volunteer basis. They like, yeah, we'll take that money. Sure, Martha's Vineyard, sure. They all went on a volunteer basis. So they weren't used, they were invited.
I know.
There's a little bit different.
I understand, but the spin is.
I know the spin.
grotesque.
I'm countering the spin.
Propaganda is on both sides, but we lived in basically every single thing is meant to be strike an emotional chord with the American populace, and then because if you're heightened and you're emotional about it, you're dumbed down with your thinking, and I think it's just kabuki theater on both sides to just
bit.
cause
But
unbelievable.
there are sweatshops and they're setting up shop in the United States. That is happening. And
That's not really new though. That's kind of been going on for
Yeah,
a while. I remember this in San Francisco back in the
enough.
90s. So, but I mean,
Fair
I'm
enough.
not saying it's not increasing. Of course, it's increasing.
I see
in
that.
huge
I see
numbers.
that as something we're going to crack down on, and I don't see
Yes,
why
I agree.
anybody on either side of the aisle is going to be opposed to cracking down on sweatshops. I mean,
100%.
basically
Or-
slave
or
labor.
Buying any product in China is sweatshop.
yeah.
And,
Well,
and they're,
what's
they're
it going to take
slaves.
to
And
get
look
people to
what they're
stop
doing
buying
to-
at Walmart? What is it going to
It's-
take?
Or Apple,
Yeah,
any Apple product, same
Yeah.
thing. All of it's made by slave labor. All of
exactly.
it.
Yeah, but the Americans don't care until it's in their backyard. So
Oh, I don't own any of that garbage.
I don't know. Well,
I do. I
the
stopped-
vast majority
I-
don't.
Well,
Well,
Nike-
wait,
I stopped
hold on.
Nike
I
a
own
long time
Apple.
ago.
I like my iPhone. Doesn't Android? Aren't those phones all made in the same factory?
Well,
Sam-
most of them are made in Taiwan, aren't they?
Well,
The
Samsung
electronics.
is South Korea, and it's
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and it's a national. Their Samsung is like a national pride to work in those companies, and they're ran very well. They're
Yeah.
a
But
capitalist.
But
they're- they're not
Google's
sweatshops.
totally got their hands
Oh,
in
Google
everything
too.
through China though. So
Oh,
I
of
think
course.
Google,
Yeah, in my
Google
opinion,
is the
they-
software on that.
They help build their surveillance state. Yeah, Google, 100%.
So you're
And they
using
have
a
a
Google phone
monopoly
though.
Well, of course. Well, I have a Samsung as well, so it's hard not to, because the globalists, right, want to
Yeah.
basically use slave labor to make money. That's it. Same thing with the U.S. corporations, and China's like, come down here. You can do, and then they steal their intellectual property and make their own products, which I think is absolutely hysterical.
You want to know why I like Apple?
Audio edit.
Is currently going after Apple. Did you see that? They're going to try to break up the whole, because they're saying that the phone is a monopoly. And to some truth, they do.
And what
make
did
text.
Apple do?
Hold on. Let me get the background here. So Apple does do a few things, very minor things, to Android at fair competition. So they make their text look bad and other things when they're incoming, but it's very minor. I don't really notice anything. But what they're saying is they're having a problem with the App Store and Apple being one. And this is really silly to me. It's like, if I want to start a business, I created the phone. I created the smartphone, and I need to sell apps for it. So I'm going to create a store, and the government is now coming and saying that's illegal. That's what the lawsuit's about.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it
So you like Apple, but don't like Google and don't like all the other companies?
You got it.
well,
Okay. Yeah.
see,
I'm
I
not
don't,
as
I don't
opposed to
like
Apple
any
as the other
company
things,
that
so.
intentionally uses slave labor, regardless of geographically where they made a business decision to do that, and then China is coming up. Huawei stole their technology, is making their phone, and they're owning the market in China, which iPhone was promised to get, right? Because it's a huge billions of person market. Which is funny because of course they did. Why wouldn't they? If anybody do business with China, you might as well just give away all your stuff to them, because that's exactly what happens with them.
Well,
So
I don't
just
know that
find it
it's
ironic and funny.
intentional to.
It's
I mean, maybe
intentional.
it. Okay, so then it was
They
intentional. Then
they
it was.
did
You're
agree to
saying
the
it was
U.S.
intentional. Then
corporations.
you're saying that it was intentional for me that I was going to have my product marketed in China.
Well,
It's
you're not using slave labor. There's a difference.
how would I
Are you
know if I
building
make
your?
a deal with some Chinese guy and said we'll find the factory
Do you own a
to make?
factory in China? And do
No,
you
I do
know
not
the
own a
conditions
factory.
of the?
But
Then
the
you don't.
company I was in contact to have a product marketed, and you go through their thing, and the rest before you know it, somebody's factory is making the product. So I don't know. I don't know this story with
I don't know.
Apple,
I mean, do we
but
know
just
that
because
every
you,
factory in China is filled with
I don't
slave
know
labor? We
anything
don't
about
know
the
Not
that.
all-
slave labor.
not-
I don't doubt that there isn't. It's just that I don't know that it's intentional. Maybe it is. I find. Look, I know there's
Well, you
people
have a
don't care.
responsibility as a company owner
Hmm.
to be. You should know, and I'm sure they cleaned it up a bit,
Mhm.
right?
Maybe I don't know.
To me, everything's made in China. And
Yes.
why is that? It's and then they ship it from China all the way over here,
Yep.
right?
It's
And it
cheaper
has to
do
do
that.
with very small labor costs there.
Yeah.
So they're exploiting, extorting.
It's
these-
it's
not extorting,
complicated. I want to
exploiting.
get so I want to give the complication from my side of it. All right, so I have this product. It's the Orbflex, a little physical therapy product. Let me get it. Hold on. I'll tell you the problem why this product is not on the market.
Well, I guess we'll wait. I had something to say on that, but I'll wait.
Yeah, and you're right about Walmart. They'll tell you.
All right.
To Walmart, if you have something that
This
Walmart
product
wants,
is amazing, okay? And it's never going to be on the market. Why? Because if you go to the United States for Home Shopping Network or any of these as seen on TV type products, they say will sell millions for $19.99. And I said, well, you can't make it for $19.99. And they say you can if you do it in China and you put all this money into it. They are not going to market it unless you get it for $19.99. That means and then you have to divide that price by 5. So it goes 1 to the people who are marketing it, 1 to the manufacturers. So $19.95, 20 divided by 3, get a few dollars for this. But it costs.
Sell millions of them.
Yeah,
whatever.
but you can't get the cost down to the cost of this needs to be a third of $20. So, roughly $6. You can't get it that.
Yeah,
And except
'cause
in
it's got
China.
magnets in it.
Except in China. Yeah. And China owns like 90% of all the neodymium mines of the world.
and that's the
And
problem.
probably slaves going there digging it up. If you got a product and with the product, a lot of people get rid of, neck problems or carpal tunnel syndrome and all of these other things. It's complicated. It's America wants our stuff for cheap. And you could sell this to hospitals and things like that. And you could sell it for $200 and then have it manufactured in the United States.
And that's the problem. Even with Walmart, if you pitch that to them, they would do exactly. And
Yep,
they
they
know
tell
the
you the same thing.
suppliers, and they know the suppliers and have equity share in the people who could make that for you. So they will say you need to get these in China. But I think that's going to start changing because China is becoming too big for its britches. It's going to invade Taiwan. It's too much of a risk. And I think during the whole COVID thing, we saw we way too reliant on them for too many things. And I'm hoping that since Apple and a lot of big players that decided to do the manufacturing down there and they got totally screwed over by it because Huawei's making basically the iPhone down there and that's why their stock is tanking a little bit because the market share they thought they were going to have by doing this deal isn't there. So they're going to be, hopefully enough companies will say we're going to have to do it in the US and then deal with it. because
I don't know that for me that I would, I mean, maybe I should, maybe at this point in my life, this was 10 years ago, that I would stop business because I don't know the work conditions of China. I don't know that I would have thought that way, and I'm not, a whole out immoral person. It's just, I got a product, and where's the cheapest, where's the affordable, where's the way to make it happen, and
I
and
get it.
so
It's a different world than it
difficult.
was.
Yeah,
My grandfather owned, he founded the company Johnson Fishing Reel. And this was in the 50s, early 50s. And he swore he would never use anything but American labor. He was really adamant about that. I'm just saying, that was the mindset of people in the 50s. And of course, it was a lot easier to do then. People could make there weren't sweatshops and people were able to, I don't know, just work.
and
But
we didn't
in
have
today's
these
environment,
we didn't have
Jeff's
these
right,
trade
it's
deals
hard.
with China.
Right.
That opened up in
Yeah.
the late 70s and 80s.
yes,
They've
I
got
think
all
that's the
kinds of
big
capital
issue.
that they didn't have before, but they're in the hands of some really wicked people. And we can't do anything. Well, we can do something about it. I think things are going to change in a year's time. I really do.
And actually, I think things are already changing. If I were to market a product, and it's not really the thing I'm interested in doing, but if I were interested to market a product, what I would do is I would just, at this point, since so much is going on, it would just be marketed, made from scratch in the United States. I mean, I made this from scratch in the United States, so there's no, but I'd have it mass produced in the United States, and I'd say, guess what? It's $60 product. It's not a $19.99 product. I'm not going to do the television. Nobody watches television anymore. So there's a lot of things that are different now. This was 10 years ago. So yeah, a lot of things have changed that I would look at. But you got to understand too, the investors of that company, they were the ones setting up the Chinese deals. They had their network, and they said they've been to China many times. They have their contacts. They got in touch with them. So it was kind of like, your investors. I mean, I could say no. I could have said no, but it's never good to say,
it's almost
no
impossible to do it in the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's ways.
There are ways.
I found a way to make this with Pourcast resin. This was handcrafted by me, and I did many of them just because I had to release a prototype, and there's no way I was going to pay the money. Toledo, where I was at the time, was going to charge $100,000 to $150,000 just for the mold to inject that, and it was a poor quality mold. I saw their other ones, and so they call it tool. And when there's companies now that at the time were popping up, and they're doing it at a fraction of the cost, but they keep the tool. They keep ownership of the tool. That way, when it wears down, they recycle the metal and use it over. So it's a fraction. So there are different things that always pop up in the United States. So it's not that you can't make products here. You can. It's just you really have to have a mindset to say, this is going to be a product I'm marketing in the United States only. You have to have the conviction, like you the awareness too, because I had not known at the time that everything was being made in sweatshops in China or slave labor. No concept of that at all. But and especially when these Apple deals went in, that was long time ago. That was like 80s and 90s. These deals were made, and when you're locked into those deals,
to open the China market was the U.S. companies would have access to a huge market. B, it could help prop up their economy, which it clearly did. But their overlords are just so corrupt and communist corruption that and now there's like
one thing I would say, just to our benefit, is that I believe that our system of government, our system of capitalism, if you're free enterprise, I don't really like the word capitalism because that has bad connotations, but free enterprise has good connotations with everybody. And that's a system that we don't quite have, but we are striving toward, we think we have. Anyway, I believe our economic system is just orders of magnitude better than the economic system in China, and ultimately it will prevail. I believe that. And so the only reason why the China has done as well as it has is because it's been propped up by all these billionaires and oligarchs.
Yeah, U.S.
Been
corporations.
propping it up. I think that was even true for Russia until they just finally gave up. There were oligarchs propping up Soviet Union for a long time. They wouldn't have lasted as long as they did if it hadn't been for the propping up that they got from us.
Is somebody
from our
propping up
billion.
the United States? Or are you saying it was the United States that was propping up these
I'm
countries?
saying it was Wall Street, man. It was Wall Street
Okay.
that right from 1917 and before. Absolutely. Absolutely it was. And you go back into like the 20s and stuff. Herbert Hoover spent a lot of time going to the Soviet Union and helping them, keeping them from starvation. We gave them food in the 20s. They wouldn't have even survived. And I'm not saying Herbert Hoover was a bad guy. I'm just saying he was part of that. He helped out. Yes, America had a huge hand in keeping the Soviet Union alive,
Interesting.
like it or not. And yeah, it's also a fact that Soviet Union killed about, I don't know, 60, 70 million people, many of whom were Christians.
Yes, this one.
And we had a hand in that. I'm sorry, but that is the truth. People need to wake up to the truth. That's really happened.
Just a
And
slight
I'm not saying
cost of
we
communism
personally
for the
did it.
greater good.
Yeah, but it's a reality we need to own up to and say, no, enough is enough. We're done with this. So anyway, that's what I think's going on. I think it's going on with China, and I think China's going to fall big time. And I don't want, I want to see good for the people of China just as much as anybody. It's not,
Yeah, it's never the
I'm not
population's fault.
opposed to the people, but I am so opposed to the system